So in calling this press conference, I'm calling you because of the serious nature of the announcement that I am about to make. An announcement on which hangs the future of this nation, its leaders, and the people of America. This is not the usual press conference, though I realize that you may only be able to use a very small portion of what I say if you choose to use it at all. However, I would hope that you record everything that I say, that it may bear a record either for or against you and me. It is written in the book of Ezekiel, "When I say unto the wicked, you shall surely die, and you give him not warning, nor speak to warn the wicked from his wicked way, to save his life, the same wicked man shall die in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at your hand. But if you warn the wicked, and he turn not from his wickedness, nor from his wicked way, he shall die in his iniquity, but you have delivered your soul." It is in this spirit that I make this announcement. In a tiny town in Mexico called Tepoztlan, there is a mountain on top of which is the ruins of a temple dedicated to Quetzalcoatl, the Christ figure of Central and South America. A mountain which I've climbed several times. However, on the night of September the 17th, 1985, I was carried up on that mountain in a vision with a few friends of mine. As we reached the top of the mountain, a wheel, or what you call an unidentified flying object, appeared at the side of the mountain, and I was called from the wheel to come up into the wheel. 3 metal legs appeared from the wheel, giving me the impression that it was going to land, but it never came over the mountain. Being somewhat afraid, I called to the members of my party to come with me, but a voice from the wheel spoke, saying, "Not them, just you." I was told to relax, and a beam of light came from the wheel, and I was carried up on this beam of light into the wheel. I sat next to the pilot. However, I could not see him. I could only feel his presence. As the wheel lifted off from the side of the mountain, moving at a terrific speed, I knew I was being transported to the mother wheel, or the mother plane, which is a human-built planet a half a mile by a half a mile, which the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us of for over 60 years. The pilot, knowing that I was fearful of seeing this great mechanical object in the sky, maneuvered his craft in such a way that I would not see the mother plane, and then backed quickly into it and docked in a tunnel. I was escorted by the pilot to a door and admitted into a room. I shall not bother you with a description of the room, but suffice it to say that at the center of the ceiling was a speaker, and through this speaker I heard the voice of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad speaking to me as clearly as you hear my voice this morning. He spoke in short, cryptic sentences, and as he spoke, a scroll full of cursive writing rolled down in front of my eyes, but it was a projection of what was being written in my mind. As I attempted to read the cursive writing, which was in English, the scroll disappeared, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad began to speak to me again. He said, and I quote, "President Reagan has met with the Joint Chiefs of Staff to plan a war. I want you to hold a press conference in Washington, D.C., and announce their plan and say to the world that you got the information from me on the wheel." End quote. He said to me that he would not permit me to see him at that time, but he said that I had one more thing to do, and when that one more thing was done, I could come again to the wheel and I would be permitted to see him face to face. He then dismissed me, and I entered the small wheel, and the pilot, whom I still could not see, moved the craft out of the tunnel and took it up to a terrific height and maneuvered his craft that I might look down upon the mother wheel, and I saw a city in the sky. With great speed, it brought me back to earth and dropped me off near Washington, where I then proceeded into this city to make the announcement. After I awakened from the vision, it seemed to vanish from my mind. However, on the morning of September the 19th, 1985, a great earthquake struck Mexico City, and it was felt as far away as Tepoztlan, the little town where I was staying. The earthquake brought the vision forcibly to my mind, and I spoke it later that morning for the first time to my wife, Khadija Muhammad, and to Sister Taineta Muhammad in the city of Cuernavaca in Morelos, Mexico. During the vision of 1985, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad did not tell me who the war was planned against or where the war would take place. But as events began to unfold from September to December of 1985 into January of 1986, it began to dawn on me slowly that that war might be against Muammar Gaddafi and the Libyan Jamahiriya, but I was not completely sure. In early February 1986, I was invited to participate in and be the spokesman at a press conference initiated by the Libyans in cooperation with Kwame Ture of the All-African People's Revolutionary Party and the representatives of approximately 15 groups of blacks, Native Americans, Hispanics, and whites, in essence, to say to the government of America, hands off Libya. While I was speaking at that press conference, the lights of the television cameras in the back of the room brought back the vision of the press conference that I was to hold in Washington, D.C., and I wondered to myself, could this be it? In February 1986, I embarked on a world tour. And while I was in Ghana, in West Africa, it crystallized for me that the war that President Reagan and the Joint Chiefs of Staff had planned was, in fact, against Muammar Gaddafi and the people of Libya. So I decided to alter my planned itinerary to go to Libya and to warn Muammar Gaddafi. I arrived in Libya, and practically every member of the Libyan government met me in my suite, with the exception of Muammar Gaddafi and his second-in-command, Jaloud. I spoke to them, and they went speedily away from my room. I expect they went to see Muammar Gaddafi. But from Tripoli, speaking before the representatives of approximately 80 nations, I repeated this vision publicly, sending back to the United States a warning to President Reagan and then Secretary of State George Shultz. During the confrontation in the Gulf of Sidra between the United States Air Force and the Libyan Air Force, it was reported in the press that a bright orange object was seen over the Mediterranean. The wheel was in fact present, and it interfered with the highly sensitive electronic equipment of the aircraft carrier that was in the Gulf of Sidra, forcing it to return to Florida for repairs. In 1987, 2 years later, in the New York Times Sunday magazine and on the front page of the Atlanta Constitution, the truth of my vision was verified, for the headlines of the Atlanta Constitution read, "President Reagan planned a war against Libya." In the article which followed, the exact words that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad spoke to me from the wheel were found, that the President had met with the Joint Chiefs of Staff and planned a war against Libya in the early part of September 1985. I did not realize at that time, when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that I had one more thing to do, that one more thing involved having the actual press conference that I am holding today and making the actual announcement that I am now fully in the knowledge and understanding of. The reason that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad did not tell me who the President and the Joint Chiefs of Staff had planned the war against was because Muammar Gaddafi, the Muslim revolutionary leader, and the small nation of Libya was only to serve as a sign of an even more significant and consequential event which was to come several years later. I am here to announce today that President Bush has met with his Joint Chiefs of Staff under the direction of General Colin Powell to plan a war against the black people of America, the Nation of Islam, and Louis Farrakhan, with particular emphasis on our black youth, under the guise of a war against drug sellers, drug users, gangs, and violence. All of this is going on under the heading of extremely urgent national security. The FBI, in preparation for this assault on the black community, has stepped up its campaign against strong black political leadership. The FBI is using dirty tactics under the guise of flushing out corrupt politicians to malign and besmirch the good name of many of our strong fighters for justice, threatening them with indictments or casting them into prison. With other weaker leaders, the government has already promised them wealth and nearness to the centers of power, and to be in their councils in exchange for their being silent when the actual attack comes. The FBI has been working to destroy the Nation of Islam since 1940. Right. As a young Muslim 34 years ago, I recall that agents of the FBI were constantly visiting members of the Nation of Islam, trying to frighten us and our families away from our belief in the religion of Islam and away from our desire to follow the leadership of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Now it is well documented through the Senate subcommittee hearings on the counterintelligence program of the United States government under J. Edgar Hoover, and through information that we have received under the Freedom of Information Act, that the government of the United States, the Justice Department, and the FBI, in the name of fighting communism and in the name of preventing a Messiah from rising among black people who would unite us, and in the name of protecting the existing social and political order, use taxpayers' dollars to employ every dirty trick that was ever used in overthrowing foreign governments deemed to be the enemies of the United States, to overthrow and to undermine all black leaders and black organizations in the United States. It is well documented that the FBI, using taxpayers' dollars, conducted illegal surveillance, wiretaps, and mischievous machinations against black leadership to discredit, undermine, embarrass, and even kill those leaders who stood up to amend the condition that 310 years of chattel slavery and 100 years of free slavery produced. That which the FBI has done against the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Nation of Islam, black leaders and black organizations, again, is well done.